So welcome to the podcast at Tkachuk Immigration. We welcome a new guest, and today we have not a usual podcast. We have it remotely, and I think it's a good thing because we have a more extended type of guest. Today there's guests from Quebec, and we will be talking a lot about not just immigration but different languages. We had an episode about English, but today is about French. So please introduce yourself.
Hi there, and thank you for having me here. I'm very glad to be talking with you today. So my name is Anais. I'm a French teacher. I've been teaching French for over 15 years in several countries, including Canada and Quebec. My specialty actually is TEF, so the test of French language. I'm an official examiner for years, and so I specialize in teaching this and preparing people to the tests and to reach their goals.
Amazing. How did you get into this, by the way?
Actually, I got into this arriving in Montreal. I immigrated in Montreal in 2018, and as soon as I arrived, people just saw my background, and they asked me to specialize in test language assessment, and I did it. I think I became an examiner maybe 1 month after arriving, after landing in Canada.
Yeah.
So yeah, actually the test is very linked also to my personal immigration pathway. So I really understand all the students and all people getting into the process.
Canada is a land of immigrants, right? So you are an immigrant, so it's we can relate to the struggle, and
definitely.
And I think it will be amazing that knowing that you could actually help right now a lot with immigration process in the terms of language tests, right? So do you do specific test training? Do you do TEF or TCF?
I'm an accredited TEF examiner, so TEF examiner, and that's the one I specialize in, and that's the one I know by heart, and I know it better. I am not a big fan, honestly, of the TCF tests. It exists. Sometimes I have people, but I really prefer suggesting a TEF, honestly. Mm-hmm. So that's the one I really work with, and that's the one I help people with.
There's a lot of news and updates about French, right? Just to let anyone who's listening to the podcast, definitely Immigration Canada wants more Francophones, right? More French speakers, especially outside of Quebec. You're being outside Quebec, it's really interesting, right? Because when you go to Quebec, Montreal, everyone mostly speaks French, and when you go to Toronto, it's English, right? And I guess government of Canada really doesn't like it because we are bilingual. Everyone has to speak both languages, or at least have more population of French speakers in the other areas. So I wanted to ask you, would that be realistic to achieve a certain level? Because talking about actually Francophones, there's a specific program called a Francophone Mobility Program Work Permit, where in order to get a work visa in Canada, you need level 5 in speaking and listening only. So if there's no language right now in French, no ability to speak French as a candidate, do you think it's possible to achieve that level, and what they need to know and what they need to work on to get to that level?
So it's always very hard for me to tell how long it's going to take to learn a language, because language is a human feature, so everyone works its own way. But based on my experience, I'd say that less than 9 months, a year, it's quite hard to really learn the language. And I would say also to like the process. That's something I really focus on with my students. It's important for them also not just to have a big boost of learning French, but also learning how to dive into the culture, dive into the music, and enjoying the process. It's something that works. So I'd say below 9 months, you don't have the time to do that. You just eat as much French as possible, and it's gonna be disgusting. You won't really like it, and you'll be in a panic. So less than 9 months, no. But some people can achieve it based on their native language, if it's close to French, like for instance Romance languages, or if they are very used to learning languages and have time to dedicate to it. But mostly my clients and my students are people working, and so they don't have time to dedicate full time. So yeah, 9 months. It's a good starting point.
Would you say that knowing French is the same as passing TCF and TF? Because potentially some French native speakers may not even pass the test, right? To the level that they expect. And some people who maybe don't speak French well can pass really well. Would you say that's a case?
Well, first, knowing the language, knowing French, and have its solid foundation is essential. You need to know the language before taking the test. But it's true that the test has its own expectation, its own strategy, its mechanic. So basically, you need to know the language, but you also need to know the tests, know the exercises, know the expectation, know what the examiner wants when it comes to speaking and writing, because we need specific features, to give you a certain level or not. So it's different. It's at the same time the same. You need to know French, but it's also different. You need to know the tests.
The test.
It's extra. Yes.
Structure. What would you say are your tips in order to pass the test? Like the first thing that come up to you right now. What are the first tips you will recommend to someone passing the TCF or TF?
My first tip is to get ready, to get prepared. Because I've seen so many people coming to TEF language exam without even knowing the exercises and just improvising. So this is a lot of time to me. What you need is at least to know what are going to be the expectations, the exercises, and what you need to do. My first tip, at least knowing it. But my best tip is also to get ready, to get prepared. If you can, with a specialist, or at least with material.
Yeah, that's really good. Can you tell us more about the structure of the test? Maybe just so people have a better idea how the test is actually structured and what to expect when you attend the examination.
So, the test has 4 exercises. One of speaking, which I'm an examiner of. I'm speaking about the TEF, TEF. So 4 exercises, speaking, writing, listening, and reading. When it comes to speaking, you'll be working with 2 exercises with an examiner, and it's going to be based on documents, which are advertisements, and you make simulation on phone, and first ask questions about the documents you have, and second, introduce and give your opinion about another document and the services inside of the documents. So that's for speaking. For writing, also 2 exercises. It's very different. One is like more journalistic. The other one is more based on opinion. And listening and reading are very, very based on the news. So I really expect to read and to listen things in terms of news and whatever comes in the world.
It's actually really funny because I passed the IELTS, the ICAS, before. It's similar to an IELTS test. And I remember when I was passing, it was not much about knowing the answer, but in terms of, let's say, speaking part, it was about just speaking. And the more you say, the better, right? And I feel even with French, is even if you don't know the answer, you just should say something in order to respond, right? Because they will examine your knowledge of how do you actually speak French, right?
Obviously, if I can complete on this, you don't need to know the answer. You need to know how to speak to the examiner, and my keyword is always to improvise, to show the examiner that you can improvise. Why? Because improvising is just speaking a language. So you need to show that you speak the language. It doesn't matter if you make some mistakes. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect, but just speak naturally, have an interaction with the examiner, and that's going to be working for speaking.
What would you say, I know you mentioned, but would you say you prefer TF or TCF, and why is that? Could you tell me that?
Yeah. I prefer TF. Well, I'm an examiner of TF, so obviously I know it better. But I could have been an examiner of TCF, and I refused to get trained for it. I can tell you 2 reasons. In terms of speaking, TF has 2 exercises, while TCF has 3. So you need to know basically to how to perform 3 exercises instead of 3, which is something. So that's the first reason. And the second reason is less known. It's in terms of listening. The TCF has a weird thing, which is you won't listen. You won't read the questions before listening to the tracks. So basically, you listen to the tracks and the audio during the test, and you listen at the end of the track the question. So you need a good memory because you need to remember what you heard, and afterwards you listen to your questions. And to me, that's something very stressful for students. While in TF, you just read the question, read the answer on the computer screen, and afterwards you listen to the tracks, which is something interesting.
It seems like a little bit easier, right?
Yes.
And simplified, right?
It's simplified to me, yes.
We talked about challenges, right? But what is your favorite thing about the test?
Oof, my favorite thing about the test. That's a great question. Honestly, I like seeing people reaching their goals a bit, and being able to perform the way they wish, the way they want, and at the same time getting more confident speaking French, because you can train for the test and at the same time feel more confident about yourself in the language. I like that.
In immigration programs, we have, of course, Francophone work permit, right, where you need only, at the moment, CLB5 and speaking and listening. Let's say a client achieved CLB5, but now they're looking to apply for express entry, and currently the targeted Francophone, like French speakers, are at CLB7 at each ability. Would you say it's difficult to get from CLB5 to CLB7, and how would you say a person could achieve that?
Getting from CLB5 to CLB7 can be challenging because it's really getting a CLB7 is really having an ability to live in the language, if I explain it in easy words. While you don't really have this ability in CLB5, you can get along, you can more or less manage in your everyday life, but it's like a more or less manage. Mm-hmm. So I'd say expect at least 6 months of hard work in between CLB5 and CLB7, and it's going to be a bit challenging because you learn how to really live in the language. Right. But it's doable. It's always doable when you are well trained and when you have a good plan and when you have motivation, obviously.
I always tell my clients, it's difficult to learn a new language, especially when you know already 2, 3, 4 languages already, right? But I feel dedication is the key. I think I had a client who achieved that in 6 months to level 5. Wow. Level 5, right? Like from
level 5 from scratch. Yes, it's doable. I've seen people also from 0 to CLB5 in 6 months. I don't suggest it. I don't advise it because it's extremely challenging. Yeah. And it's a bit too much. Like the person really has to dedicate almost full time to it, and it can feel, not good.
Yeah, like you might can feel the language.
Yeah, you hate the language, and it feels disgusting. That's exactly what I said. So
I would be like, I can't hear any more French words.
That's what happened. It's a shame because at the end of the process, the person is disgusted. They don't want to speak or listen to French anymore. And so they lose what they've learned, what they are supposed to go to them, they just lose it. So I don't really suggest to do that because of this. You won't keep what you have in mind, what you have memorized. Yeah. If you do this that way.
How many hours a person has to spend to achieve level 5, let's say, from scratch in 9 months, let's say?
Normally, the estimations can be different based on different institutions or teachers. My numbers, my data is CLB5 is around 600 hours of study, meaning study with a professional, a teacher, a book, and self-study. It's something, 600 hours. Yeah. And CLB7, for your information, CLB7 is around 1,000. So see, there is a long way in between CLB5 and CLB7.
But you know what? It gives me some sort of hope because a lot of my clients that come here and they feel hopeless because immigration programs are challenging, and learning the new language is also difficult, right? And especially when you start learning, it's so new and challenging. So you feel like I will never do this, but if you continue, stay consistent, keep on doing it for at least a year or so, it's possible, right? And especially, I want to tell my clients who are afraid to start learning the new language. I know it's tough with immigration, but if there's no other possible pathway, and French could be your way out, technically. It could be beneficial for you to start now, and then once your work permit expiring in 2 years, you're already at level 7, right?
Yes, definitely. I really want to say that 2 years, it's good enough. If you're consistent and if you really study well and you dedicate, you can do it. Even in 1 year and a half, that's what my average in general. 1 year and a half, it's doable, and I'm pretty sure you can enjoy the process at the same time, which is important.
Would you say it's important to be with a tutor or some sort of help in this process, or someone can just achieve it individually?
Now, to me, you need at some point you need professional. You need a professional. You need a tutor or an e-learning program or a study book. You know, the good old study book, but a professional, like professional. Why? Because especially for active skills, so for speaking and writing, you need feedback. You need feedback on pronunciation. You need feedback on your grammar mistakes. You need feedback to get better and to improve. So I've seen a lot of people self-studying and really struggling and coming to me when they are really tired and they're hopeless, and at that point they need help. They feel they need help. My advice is start working with a professional at the beginning, because that's where it's the hardest, and make a good plan with the professional and self-study, on your side.
It's like you gave me an example of learning how to drive. If you're truly new to learning, it's easier to teach you on how it is the right way, right?
Yes.
Whereas if you know how to drive already and you've been driving on your own, right? And then to pass the driving test, it's difficult because you know your own rules, right? And it's difficult to learn something else, right? What is expected in an examination. So I feel the same with a TEF or TCF test, because whenever you know the language, right, it's one thing, but passing the test is definitely a different thing.
Yeah, definitely.
On that note, I have many clients who are native speakers. Like I have clients from Cameroon, Morocco, some people from Dubai who are also French speakers. It's funny that I see the test, the speaking part, really high score, but the writing part might be not a little bit, it's lacking. Maybe just with some of my clients, but I feel maybe just generally for French speakers, it could be a case. What's your experience about it?
It can happen. It can happen because writing French is hard. French has its own orthograph and spelling things, which can be very hard. Grammar can be challenging, and a lot of people make mistakes in French, and a lot of people need other people to reread them in general whenever they write. So honestly, that's a very common trouble for native speakers to have a lower level than they are speaking, because obviously their speaking is perfect, they're native speakers, but they can make, whenever it comes to writing, they can make very common grammar, orthograph, vocab mistakes. And sometimes also they don't use what I call strategic grammar, which is using the difficult grammar rules, with your own willing and strategically, because you know that it would give you points. So that's what happens in general.
Would you give me a good example of a small exercise that client can do on their own with writing tip? Let's say, do they need just to write a lot of essays, or should they just memorize thing and rewrite it? What would be the good little exercise for improving writing in French?
Well, it depends on their trouble. It depends on the issue. But a good thing to do is to practice the exercise, so the TEF exercise itself, and to get feedback, to get correction. The best, obviously, is with a teacher or an examiner. But today, AI can also help. So you can just do the exercise, during the time that you need, also 1 hour, and afterwards use the AI for correction, for to see what were your troubles, prompt it properly for the AI to highlight your issues and study your issues.
It's interesting you said that was AI, right? Do you recommend using AI just like your own tutor? It's a AI is so advanced right now, and basically, you can just train it. Can you teach me for the TF or TCF examination?
Yeah, I have a lot to say in terms of TEF when it comes to AI and ChatGPT especially. The last day I was asking to the AI, so ChatGPT, what were the exercises of TEF? And actually what happens is ChatGPT explained me TCF exercises. So I asked for one test and the AI talked about the other one. So pay a lot of attention to AI because it makes mistakes. It's written. AI makes mistakes. Well, that being said, you can train obviously the AI to help you. I wouldn't suggest for you to exclusively work with AI because, as I said, you need human feedback. You need human feedback on your speaking, and honestly, an AI cannot do it the way a tutor does. And you can feel also very lonely because you're with a machine, So
yeah,
and so. Yes, but I'd say as a teacher's assistant, it's a great teacher assistant. That's the way I use it. I explain my students how to use it when I'm not here.
I do feel the same actually because in my immigration practice, I get clients to come to me and they say, well, I try to do this in ChatGPT, and I had a client actually coming to me as well saying that they submit application based on ChatGPT advice.
That's dangerous, right?
And they got refused, and I was like, "This is exactly why you cannot rely on the AI or even social media. Sometimes people say things in social media as well, right? Would you say French or English is easier?"
It's very hard for me to say. I'm a French speaker. I'm a native French speaker, so obviously to me French is easier than English. But no, honestly, I know that French grammar is challenging. It's more challenging than the English grammar. But still, English grammar can be challenging too, to some points.
Yeah.
So it depends on people. It depends on your acquisition. A lot of my students got exposed and got to learn English very early in their life. So it can feel a bit easier for them while they start learning French afterwards. And learning a language as an adult is always more challenging. So it really depends on people, honestly.
It's funny when I was I didn't speak a word of English when I arrived to Canada, by the way.
Okay, so wow!
I was 17 at that time, and I just knew how to say "me no speak Canada,"
Wow.
at that time. But it's funny because when I was learning English back home, right, which didn't help me much, but I was directly studying grammar, right?
Yeah.
In Canada schools, like in high school, I noticed they didn't teach grammar at all. It's like how you feel it. That's how you feel
it. But honestly, that's based on, it's a very cultural way of seeing a language. Yeah. Francophone and French speakers actually were taught their own language in terms of grammar. So when they become teachers, they tend to reproduce it and they tend to teach based on grammar. I personally don't do it because I know that a lot of people are very, very afraid of French grammar. So I teach based on skills acquisition and the speaking acquisition. Obviously, you need to learn grammar in the middle of it because, grammar is the tool, but grammar is never the end. And I feel that in Canada and in general in the English-speaking world, let's say so in the UK, etc., they don't look at their own language in terms of grammar. They don't actually overthink the language in terms of rule. So they just use it and they speak it. So it's a very cultural way of thinking. Yes.
On that sense, would you say the test uses more French that Quebec French, or French from France? Is there a difference? Is there a thing like this? I'm just wondering.
It's a great question. A lot of people ask it. Both TEF and TCF are produced in Paris, but they try not to focus too much on Parisian French. So they produce content with the different French features, different French accents, Canadian, Quebec, African. So you can normally listen and read different versions of French.
Different versions.
More international French. Let's say it's more international French than French, French from France. French.
Well, it's really nice to see that Canada is moving into a direction where they want to promote more social factors such as more French speakers. I think it's good for the nation generally, because we are bilingual, right? We have both languages, French and English. It just happened that way that Quebec has more French speakers, and everywhere else, unfortunately, just English most of the time. I hear some voices sometimes in French, but it's just very little percentage. I think government of Canada is trying to increase the population outside of Quebec of French speakers, maybe from 8% to like 12-13% by 2028. So that's like almost like a half of population.
Well, I didn't know this data. I didn't know it was that much. So yeah, it's a good thing. Canada is bilingual officially, and sometimes it's true that outside of Quebec, I speak English. Outside of Quebec in general, which is a shame, because I know there are French-speaking community.
Yeah, and I believe right now we try to work with the government on these French community streams more and more. I actually recently submitted the program called French Community Stream, FCIP, where basically to qualify you need to have a job offer from the community, like a smaller rural community, let's say in the northern Ontario, let's say, and the job has to be from designated employer from on the priority occupation, so it can't be just any job, right? It has to be meeting the labor needs, but it also pretty good for French speakers, like the candidates who are looking to apply with the French, because as in Express Entry it's only 7, like it's 7 each. In the French community stream it's only 5 each that you need.
It's easier, as you said. That's 600 hours.
Right? I would recommend clients who are truly going that pathway, if it's tough to get from CLB 5 to CLB 7, it's just to simply maybe look at the employment somewhere in those communities and look at the jobs that are in priority sector, right? That would be, I think, a good possible way to get it, your paperwork, permanent residency potentially in Canada. On the good note, before we finalize, I would like to do some lightning rounds. I usually do those with every guest. So I will be asking you quick questions, and you just have to answer pretty fast.
Okay.
Don't really think about it.
Okay.
So like ask you coffee or tea, and you have to say coffee, right? Or tea.
Okay.
Okay. So one word: French for immigration in 2026. Overrated or underrated?
Underrated.
Okay. Hardest tough skill for most candidates?
Writing.
Okay. Can someone start from zero and still make French part of their immigration plan?
Obviously.
Biggest myth about French language?
It's too hard to reject.
Is it a myth though?
No, it's not a myth. You can do it. Obviously, you can do it.
Best first step for a candidate watching this?
Start with the get to know teachers, get assessed, and just start.
And if someone has 1 year before their work permit expires, should they start French?
Yes, and they should start it today, but not afterwards, because 1 year is enough to reach your goal. Really, if you dedicate, you can do it. So, yes, let's start now.
I actually do agree with you. I have many clients coming to me saying my work permit is expiring next year, 2027, right? and they're trying to find job offers with LMI. Yes, if you have employer and he cannot find local Canadian, and you're perfect for the job, great, they could try to apply for LMI, but they have to understand that LMIs are not easy to get, and the Francophone Mobility Program is something that could be their way out, like to extend their stay. Some LMIs give you validity of work permit only for 1 year. And with Francophone, it's 2 years. So sometimes maybe 3 years. So if you have a year, right, and you're able to achieve level 5 in speaking and listening, right, which you said could be possible, right?
Totally possible.
Yeah, you could definitely extend your stay. I know it's difficult, but unfortunately, there's limitations in the immigration policies right now, and I think it's good that you are here to give us a little bit of guidance on the French.
I want to tell hope. Huh? I give you hope. It's totally doable to reach a CV5 in 1 year. It's something I've seen, I've observed, and I've assessed for years. So you can do it. You know, learning a language is hard, but as an immigrant, I can tell you that the immigration pathway is also hard. So, you know, choose your hard.
Well, French, of course, is not dirty, but it can be one of the smartest doors to explore, right? So, on that note, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I think it was an amazing episode, and a lot of people should be listening to this episode because you gave some great tips, and from your experience, you shared which tests are great and have to actually what to expect from them. So thank you so much. And on this note, we will be closing our podcast. And if anyone wishes to learn French, we definitely call Anais for advice for that. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was a great pleasure.
Perfect.
See you later.